All right, all right, all right. We are back live streaming with our new friend Mander, who is joining us from Morningside College in Sioux City, Nebraska, correct? Or is it
Sioux City,
Iowa?
Iowa.
Okay, so it is on the other side.
Yep.
It's all good. It's about an hour and a half away. As I said, I was venturing out to do these live streams actually from Sioux City with the trailer today, and then ran into some snow and had to turn around and skedaddle back. It's totally clear in Omaha, although there was snow forecasted. And I hear it's also clear in Sioux City.
Yeah.
So I think after these afternoon interviews, I'm probably going to hop in my truck and head back up that way, just not pulling a trailer. Probably a
Yep.
lot safer. But Mander joined us earlier and now is joining us again to talk a little bit more about. I'd really love to talk a little bit more about just the culture at the college when it comes to folks who are LGBTQIA2S plus.
Yep.
Just kind of your take on that.
Yeah. So, in the short amount of time I've actually been at Morningside as a freshman, it's been majoritively positive in my experience. Of course, I'm not the only experience that can be talked on. Plenty of people have had poor experiences, but I've met quite a few individuals who are also LGBTQIA plus, and overall, they've seemed to have pretty pleasant experiences. Staff is relatively accepting and understanding. Um, mo- Most of the time, people, if they even bother to speak with hate speech, are shut up pretty quickly. I don't know if it's already been mentioned, but a few weeks ago, we had a pro life protester outside of the Olson Student Center, which also acts as our cafeteria and post office. And he was spouting rhetoric about how just people who don't agree with his life or his views on how life should be lived are going to hell. And even people who believe that LGBT people and abortions are a sin were speaking out against this guy, and standing. I personally was standing with a couple of girls who are like pro-life and pro-Catholicism, Christianity in general, and they were standing there backing me up as I talked about just not dealing with trans people like we're a disease and more treating us like people. And they were backing me up, even though some of my beliefs aren't in alignment with theirs. So, overall, generally, campus is a pretty understanding, responsive community.
Well, that's really interesting. So, what do you think? What do you think is the reasoning behind their backing you up in that particular instance? Although you have differing views.
I think they backed me up because I knew a few of them. They were in some of my classes, so I think some of it was just, well, we know Mander, um, so we're going to back him up. But also, it was just kind of this understanding. Like, even after the protester had left, they were all kind of like, hey, we don't agree with you, but nobody deserves to be told that they're going to go to hell and burn just because some creep with a poster board doesn't agree with their existence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could probably have a very long conversation around the genocides caused by religion
Yeah.
on multiple levels. And so I appreciate the fact that they did stand with you in that particular instance, and I think it's really important. It illustrates something really important, and that we can actually stand together even though all of our beliefs may not line up.
Right.
And I think them knowing you and being able to be in conversation with you is going to have a lasting impact on their lives. And I mean that in a positive way.
Yeah.
Normally when we say impact, we're thinking negatively, but I think that those kinds of environments, and I think that's what education and what university and collegiate level learning is supposed to illustrate, how we can all come together and have these conversations that help to expand knowledge and awareness.
Right.
Right. So what do you think from, I know you say that you have limited experience because you're a freshman, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you're studying criminal justice and criminology and looking at going into research around um, some of the statistics for folks that are impacted by crime, and particularly hate crime. So I think
Yeah.
that that's wonderful that you're doing that, and I love hearing about folks who are doing things like yours. Because I mean, a lot of times I will be connected with younger folks who are inspired by wanting to be social media influencers. And I mean, while there's a place for that, there's not always success in that,
Right.
right? And so I love hearing about you and your course and taking your course, uh, to get the degree that you want to get and to make that impact. Very, very cool. But what do you think, based on your limited experience with the college, what do
Right.
you think are some of the things that they could be doing better?
Definitely communication and understanding with students, not even just on a queer level, but on a disability level. A lot of our buildings still aren't ADA approved. We don't have a lot
Mm,
of elevators in a lot of buildings.
yeah,
And as a disabled trans person, it is extremely hard to get up 3 to 4 flights of stairs with a binder on, with asthma and a collapsed lung. And obviously, it's not as impactful, but just for my personal day to day, that's an experience. In general, for being LGBT trans, again, it's such a minimal issue that I, as a white activist, have had the privilege for this to be one of my biggest issues back in high school, was the bathroom situation
mm,
of just binary shower setups and bathroom setups not being accessible for genderqueer individuals. Um, Obviously, it's a very privileged problem to have, of understanding that, like, oh, my bathroom doesn't align with my gender. But it is still a safety issue for a lot of individuals, to the point where, myself included, I know a few people who just avoid going to the restroom in not only like the buildings their classes are in, but sometimes even just when they're in the dorm, because it's just dangerous sometimes,
yeah,
especially like if you're a trans woman, it's either being treated like a creep in the women's restroom, or potentially having your life threatened in the men's room.
yeah,
Um, and then as a trans male individual, it's either feel completely invalidated and again, like stared at in the women's room, or again, having that threat of assault in the men's room.
yeah.
It's, it's terrifying for a lot of individuals. And I'm lucky enough to have my own personal restroom and shower, but I know that the majority of the queer individuals on campus don't have that.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, I appreciate that you are aware that the situation that you're in right now is you're being provided something that a lot of people aren't,
Yeah.
and that you see that as a privilege, but it's still your your fears on campus are valid.
Yeah.
Your struggles on campus are valid. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, ADA compliance has been a struggle for so long because there's this rationalization around, well, how many people does it impact really?
Right.
And when the government started to say, well, if it impacts one person, it's impacting someone and it needs to be changed. And so that's why all of these ADA compliancy things have been put into place. You know, one of the things that my university has been doing really great work around is, being making sure that all of our online courses are compliant, and and making sure that we have tools and everything that's available so that images have the descriptors on them, and that we have closed captioning in all the videos that we create. But I
Right.
think it's like, how do you think we go about shifting some of the mindset around, well, it's not that many people that are being impacted, so why should we care?
Frankly, anytime I hear that argument, the immediate thought that comes to my mind is not all disabilities are visible at the beginning. And so, even if there's only like two people in a wheelchair at a school, there might be people with respiratory disorders, with um, like a knee transplant or a prosthetic leg that they keep hidden. Um, so, just the idea of, well, there's only two to three actually disabled individuals on campus, it really is just stating on that ignorance of deciding that disabled people have to either give you their entire medical history to be valid,
Yeah.
or have to openly show what is often an embarrassing part of your life just to be accommodated, which is hell.
Well, exactly. I mean, I am not a little guy. I'm a
Right? Same.
good sized guy, and I have really bad knees. 57-year-old knees. I've had 2 surgeries on one knee. Because of my size, they are not necessarily approving any knee replacements.
Yeah.
And so for me, I can totally relate to that, because it's like I ask now when people are having events or hosting different things, what's the parking situation? I have to park a number of blocks away, because if I do, I'm not coming.
Right.
But when you're talking about education, right? And your class is going to be held in that building on that floor at that time, and that's it, and that's the only time that works for you, and that's the only room that that class is being held in, regardless of how many times it's being held. It's not okay to have you be inconvenienced, or to have you not be able to even maybe take that class because of those things. I mean, I can't imagine. You said 3 flights of stairs, and I about had an asthma attack
Same.
listening to you say that. So I get it. And so I think it's just sad. It's like, I don't know, I've been advocating for our community for decades now, and I don't know what it is. The only thing that I can see that gets people in action is when it either impacts them directly or someone very close to them that they love.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate truth.
Yeah. People tend to have a very selfish mindset and self-serving mindset when looking at any accommodation, because they don't look outside of their direct social circle and see, well, how does this affect others and how can I help that?
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest issues with a lot of this work, is dealing with those kinds of people.
So if someone was on campus who is not LGBTQ plus, but wanted to participate in DOT, are they able to participate?
Yeah. Dot is not just a glorified GSA. A lot of the work we do is LGBT focused, of course, because it is a diverse community. But we also do things for, um, like Day of the Dead. We do something every year called My Culture is Not a Costume, where we talk about not wearing offensive or racist costumes just because it's a joke. And so we do feminism, we do queer activism, we do POC activism, anyone is allowed to come to DOT because it is diversity, openness, and togetherness. And they are more than welcome to join us. We
Awesome.
want them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's a really great way to, for people who maybe don't necessarily understand uh, a lot about the community to participate and provide support while also be able to learn. Like, don't just show up and ask a bunch of questions, right?
Right?
I mean, is safe space training on your campus open to anyone?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe for some it's even required just because of their major. Like I, this is not something that I'm experienced with, but I do think that people going into certain fields do have to get it. But other than that, I think anyone can sign up to just go do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's free, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, because I know the UNO, the University of Nebraska in Omaha here, does a lot of safe space, safe zone type training. At least they used to through their uh what is it, their gender and sexuality resource center.
Yeah,
They used to offer it for free and anybody from the community could partake. I just haven't seen it posted in a while. So I think that that's really awesome, that y'all are still doing that kind of training. And again, it's like for those folks who say to me, I'm always looking for places where I can send people. Like, look, you can either pay me to come train your people, or you can go take a safe space training for free, and that'll give you some of the information that you need to know, but not all of it.
right.
It gives you an introductory level about how to just not be a complete jerk. But the subtle nuances, it's like the subtle nuances of when we talk about residential life on campus. What does that look like for some students who might be LGBTQ plus? And if our universities are still in that binary mindset, they're like, well, we got the male dorm and we have the female dorm. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
But then that trans person that shows up, are they, is there a certain kind of criteria before they say, oh, okay, well, we're going to house you with the women because you say that you're a trans woman? Or
Yeah.
do they not? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. In my experience, I was originally supposed to be in gendered housing, but apparently it fell through this year. They did ask me who I would be more comfortable with, cis men or cis women. And if we had a gender inclusive floor, would I be more comfortable with a trans woman or a trans man? As somebody who is not entirely trans masked, but a gender nonconforming individual. So when there was that thought of a safe place for us to live, there was some consideration of comfort on all levels. But as the housing fell through, the question slowly focused more on, well, would you be comfortable with cis women or cis men? So there is a level of screening, I guess would be the correct word, before if you disclose it.
Okay.
Um, but other
Was
than that, you kind of just get put with your assigned sex.
was that comfortable for you, Mander?
Not very. I it developed a lot of anxiety for me.
Mm.
I had put down male on apparently one of my pieces of paperwork at some point. I was probably doing it pretty late, so it just foggy. Um, and I got a phone call that straight up asked me why I put the wrong gender down. And I was asked if I would rather just be put with women than with men for safety reasons.
Wow.
My gender identity basically became invalidated and put on hold because they didn't want to have to admit that not everybody fits a binary.
Right. I'll tell you, Mander. So first of all, I'm sorry that that happened to you, and I don't necessarily know if I have a solution, but it certainly is something that I think. needs to be discussed. There needs to be some conversation around how that's going to look. And I don't know if it's a matter of maybe doing some research around it to see where most transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming or gender diverse folks would fall when it came to the question of if you were going to be in student housing, where would you want to be housed?
Yeah.
Right. And I know that there's a lot of universities that are looking into that and they're trying to figure out what that space is going to look like because none of them are quite ready to say we're just getting rid of the
Yeah.
whole binary thing anyway. Cause I mean, they still can't get rid of binary bathrooms.
Right.
So I don't see them moving into any other non-binary spaces when it comes to accommodations. So
Oh yeah.
just very interesting. So, but I wanted to ask you the question because I love that you have your pronouns as he, they, we. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So he and they are mainly because I identify as a demi boy. So for me, I experience gender on a binary scale about 25% of the time. So I know that I'm comfortable with any pronouns except she, her, which give me dysphoric emotions. And the we comes from the fact that through some searching, deep diving, etc., into my own mind with my therapist, I have found that I may or may not have OSDD, which is a subtype of DID, which is dissociative identity disorder.
Mm.
So currently at the moment, I am experimenting with we are pronouns,
Wow.
as sometimes I will just slip into them and refer to myself as we or are just because it is
Yeah.
a, just a part of the way my mind works.
Well, and it's more inclusive of who you are.
Yeah.
But I like that though. We. I mean, if all of us had pronouns that were just we, I mean, it would be really very respectful of all because
Yeah.
we feel the same way.
Right. It's like we are all kind of together in this. The idea of individualization is important, of course, because when
Yeah.
you de individualize people, it can create animosity within the group because there's no way to say, I am an individual. And so that causes issues. But on the other side of the coin, identifying as a group can also bring strength in the fact that it is no longer I fucked up, but we somehow miscalculated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mander, thank you so much for hopping back on and sharing a little bit more about your experience on campus, and really appreciate you. And you're welcome to stay, but I do see that we have Liv in the is backstage quietly waiting to join the stream. So again, you are welcome to stay, but if you need to head out, you certainly can. But I'm going to bring Liv Draves on with us now. Hello, Liv.
Hello.
Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. Are you going to head out, Mander, or are
Yeah,
you going to?
I'm going to
Okay.
pop out. I will see you guys when I see you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Have a great day. All right.
Hello.
Live. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for popping on and
Yes.
being willing to have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you actually are going to be interviewed solo, so you don't have to worry about anybody else being on here
Okay.
with us. And I'm not sure. I think that it's you, and then there was one other person who was going to join in. I think Samahar, who is someone who works with the city. But I don't know if they're joining right now or when they're joining for sure. And then I'm also trying to navigate, actually, now that I'm not pulling a trailer behind my truck, getting back in the truck and driving up to campus to be there for the talk tonight. So
Okay.
still trying to figure that out though. But hey, so thank you very much for joining us. And,
Yeah.
I'm going to lobby the first question your way, or lob the first
Okay.
question at you. It's not a difficult but one, but I'd love to hear about, what is your major, what year you are in college, and then one thing that you really appreciate about what Morningside is doing in regard to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging efforts.
Okay. Well, I'm a senior here at Morningside. I'm a nonprofit management major with a psych minor. And one thing that I appreciate about Morningside and the diversity, kind of hard. I think just Camry Miranda, she's great. I mean, she pushes for everybody all the time. And she's also one of my best friends. So just being close with her and her letting me know everything and always asking my input for everything. So I think that's like one of my favorite things is just having an ear on kind of everything, but still kind of being like in the background of it.
Right. Now you're part of DOT, is that correct?
Yeah.
What do you do for that group?
So when I was a freshman and sophomore, I was super heavily involved with it. This year, I'm not so much a part of it just because I'm a senior figuring my life out to become an adult. But I have a lot of talks with Camry and I have a lot of meetings with her. And she talks about the issues that we have on campus. And then she talks to me about it, asks for my input. And then I tell her how I'd like to see things and how I would like for Morningside to go with diversity, and she kind of takes what I say and puts it into action. So she comes to me, I tell her what I would like to see, and she makes it happen for me.
Oh, well, that's very cool. What are some of the things that you wish that Morningside would do better?
Regarding diversity,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things. There's a lot of issues that have happened at Morningside that have been brushed under the rug and have not been brought up again. And I know for a fact that they need to bring issues and bring it to the surface and confront them head on instead of brushing it under the rug. Um, they could be advocating for so many minorities constantly by just supporting them and really not just posting on their social medias about, oh, Black History Month or Heritage Month, do something about it.
Yeah.
They never really have a voice in specific minorities, and I feel so they need to push more for it. I personally I want my people to be seen, and I want everybody to feel like they can do something. But unfortunately, our people who are the heads of things show their political views and show their true sides of themselves too often, so that
Mhm.
now we know that we have a leader who isn't supportive of certain affiliations.
So do you think that there's like more work to be done in
Absolutely.
regard to elevating leadership's beliefs?
Yes. I feel as though the leaders here on campus are not educated enough to be able to advocate for everybody, but instead they brush it under the rug and they don't pay attention to it because they don't know about it. So they think they're helping everybody by not speaking on it, but they're hurting others because they're not letting others be seen.
Can you give me a little example of what you're talking about? I mean, you
Um,
don't have to name names, but just maybe a situation that has arisen and that was brushed under the rug, and that like the direct impact of that though is the person involved is is being dismissed, right? Not dismissed from the school, but just their concerns are invalidated. I'll say it that way.
mhm. Absolutely. I'll take last year. Um, they painted the bench that we have here at Morningside, the transgender awareness colors of the flag. It was destroyed. Last year, a group of people painted all over it. They vandalized it. They just completely ruined it. Morningside, to my knowledge, all they sent out was an email. I didn't hear anybody speak on it. I didn't hear anybody talk about it. I didn't see any public posts about it on any social media platform. I didn't see anything about it. They sent out an email and then they stopped it. What I want to see is Morningside stepping up. I wanted to see a leader on campus speak about it. I wanted them to hold something or send something out again. I just think that they think that if bringing a little bit of attention to it is fine, and that's just not how I feel about it.
So really what would have made a difference for you is for leadership to make a very strong statement about
Mhm.
how unacceptable it was
Mhm.
for that bench to be destroyed.
Absolutely.
And and you know, I mean, it's kind of a common theme, right?
Mhm.
And one thing you'll see upon graduation in when you become an adult, as you say, which by the way, just FYI, you're already an adult. Um, it, but it's like I see this a lot within DEI efforts or DEIB efforts that are happening out in corporate America is that they're trying to put band-aids on gaping wounds as opposed to, look, this is a problem
Absolutely.
and we are going to actually do what we need to do to address the problem
Mhm.
and make sure that it is corrected in a way that is empowering to the folks that it has harmed,
Absolutely.
right?
100%. And I think one thing that I'm excited about from Morningside, fortunately, I'll be leaving, but our new president being able to step up and make a change. And I think it's pretty cool that the president is a Black man. I think it's amazing. And I'm like, hey, but hopefully he will do some good and make a change. So,
Yeah. Well, I think that is amazing as well, and I hope that he will also, from what I've heard, and he sent me an email and he apologized that he wasn't gonna be on campus, and he was really, sorry that he wasn't gonna be able to join me and have a conversation with me, and so I'm hoping that at some point he'll join me on a live stream and we can have a conversation about some of the things and some of the ways in which he's wanting to
mhm.
elevate diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging on campus. I'd love to have that conversation with him. Um, I'm with you. I think it's awesome, and I look forward to having a conversation with him. Um, so what do you plan to do once you graduate? Where do you think you're gonna land?
So I've always wanted to move farther away. So I don't know where I want to go. I fell in love with Washington my freshman year. I never really traveled before college, but freshman year we went to nationals for cross country, and I was able to ride with my friends, and we did a cross country trip for 24 hours in a car. So I got to visit a lot of states, and then we had our like the cross country meet in Washington. I fell in love with it. So for the first like 3 years of college, I was like Washington, Washington, Washington. Um, but I don't know now. I love the beaches. I don't know where I'm gonna end up, but I want to go somewhere big. I have an amazing partner. She's so great. So hopefully we'll just figure out a place that like works best for us.
Yeah.
But what I want to do with my job, I guess, is I want to be a director of an association. So I already have a really great job right now, and it's helping me with my major. So I'm hoping that I either place like a permanent career job in that organization, or I find another organization that I fall in love with and get a job there.
Awesome. So how
Yeah.
long have you and your partner been together?
Um, we have been talking since August, and we just made it official this month.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, she's great.
So what would you say is the most common, misunderstanding about who you are as a how do you identify? Do you identify as lesbian,
As a
queer?
lesbian, yes.
Okay. So, what's the most common misunderstanding that you hear from folks about your being a lesbian? When they find out, what's the most common thing they say?
The most common thing. I wouldn't say it's like misconstrued, but they're always like, "Oh, I knew." Like when I tell them like, "Oh, I'm a lesbian," they're like, "Oh, we know." And I'm like, "How did you know that?" And they're like, "We just knew." And I was like, "Hmm."
Is that your
But
family's response to
oh
you?
yeah, when I came out to my family, they were like so insanely supportive. They were like crazy supportive. And they were like, I never had a boyfriend in high school. ever. I never dated anybody. I wasn't really into that. I was just focused on my athletics and my sports and stuff like that. So when I first came out, my family was like, "Yeah, we knew." My sisters were like, "Cool, like period." And I was like, "Okay."
I mean, yeah, that can feel a little dismissive. You're like, "Oh, come on. I was
Yeah,
hoping for a little more drama from y'all."
right. I was like, "Where's the drama?" And they're like, "We knew, girl." And I was like, "Oh." I'm very lucky though. I'm very, very lucky. I've never ever had a negative response when I came out to anybody.
Huh,
So I'm very thankful because I know that is not the case for a lot of LGBTQ. So
yeah. Why do you think it was easy for folks to, accept you?
I don't I'm not sure. I still get nervous when I don't know people, but I come out to them. But with my family, they're very open and they're very loving, and we have been through a lot of stuff together. Me and my sisters have been through hell and back with each other, and we have always made a pact that no matter where either of us go or what either of us are doing, we're always going to find each other and we're always going to be there for each other. And so I feel like just me coming out to them was such a like a loving thing for them that I was able to open up to them. So I generally they just like do not care. They will love me forever. Like I don't it's so crazy. I don't know. I'm so thankful.
Well, that is really awesome, and I'm really happy to hear that,
Yes.
that you've had a positive, uh that you've been received positively by the people that you love and care about. Because it's nice to feel like you are not having to deal with some of the things that other folks have had to deal with. So,
Absolutely.
I appreciate that you have not had to have that kind of experience.
Yeah,
It's
me
very
too. It's very scary for a lot of LGBTQ plus and like a lot for the youth too. So I'm just very thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So what kind of work are you gonna go in? So you say you're gonna maybe go and work in the nonprofit realm, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
I've always loved nonprofits, but I was education for a very long time. I was education for 3 years. So 3.5 years, I think. So I've been doing education since I was a junior in high school. In high school, I applied to go to this education academy outside of my high school to fast forward my like career education. And so I applied for it. I wrote like a ton of essays and I got accepted into it. And so I went into an education academy my junior year of high school, and I finished my senior year. And so that fast forwarded me so I would be able to do like more practicums, get in the classroom, do a lot of college courses to be able to like fast forward. So since then, I've been doing education, and then until I was a junior, I was still doing education. And I think I kind of wore myself out
Mm,
because that was the only thing I've ever done and the only thing that I ever wanted to do. And then I had this one class with one of our professors, Dr. Brandon Best. She's amazing. I had philanthropy of philosophy with him, and it opened my eyes to all of the nonprofits here in Iowa, in Sioux City as well. And I just kind of fell in love with the fact of the philanthropy within it and nonprofit as a whole. And so I changed my major to that, and I still have an emphasis in education, so I could like go into the education within nonprofit. So I satisfied myself.
nice. Well, that all sounds pretty awesome to me, Liv. Um, so I'm gonna kind of like steer us down another path.
Okay.
Okay. So where do you find joy?
Okay. Uh, I think I'm a very happy person. I find joy in a lot of stuff. I'm very optimistic, but I think that I find the most joy in being with my partner and like hanging out with her, and then also hanging out with my friends. I love my friends. My friends are my entire life.
Yeah. What does pride mean to you?
When I think of pride, I think of electricity. And I know that sounds really weird, but I'm a very loud electric person and I am not afraid to be who I am to anybody. And pride to me is being happy and loud and yourself and loving so much love and just truly deeply being who I am and not being afraid of it. like I love pride. I love meeting new people. I love the electricity with it. I love the energy. I love love. I love love.
Well, you are very joyful and electric.
I think I'm a happy person.
Yeah, you are. You are very joyful and electric. So let me ask you this. What does dignity mean to you?
Owning it. I think me and one of my best friends, Isaac Johnson, he's so great. We are huge Real Housewives fans. We watch Real Housewives. We stay on track of it all the time. And Lisa Rinna is one of our favorite women ever. And she says owning it. So I think dignity for me is owning it. Like, you know what you're going to say and what you're going to do. And you have to be able to own that. And if you can't, then don't do it. I guess.
Okay. So what would you say to the young person who might be watching, who's questioning their own sexual orientation or gender identity? What would you say to that young person?
I would say that it's okay to be confused and it's okay to question yourself. I feel as though youth right now feel like everything they're feeling is wrong or they shouldn't feel it. And that's the totally negative way to go about it. Like, you have to just accept that you are going to be confused and it is going to hurt for a little bit. But if you truly, honestly feel like this is who you want to be, then it doesn't matter. Then just be it, because we live in a world where if you are feeling something, then you just gotta own it, girl.
Like
Like,
I said,
with me, I didn't know.
joyful and electric.
Yeah.
That's from, what is that? I'm thinking of, I think it's The Grinch. Yeah, there's a scene where he says, I'm joyful and something. I can't remember what it is now. I'm gonna have to I watch The Grinch every year.
So
And
do I.
it is that time of year. It's the Jim Carrey Grinch, though, is the one that I love. Joyful and triumphant. That's what he says. I'm
Nice.
joyful and triumphant as the Grinch. Well, what else do you have for me, Liv? I mean, we're sitting here waiting for my next guest to jump on, and I don't see them yet. I sent a message to Camry. I don't know if our next guest is happening.
Love
Um,
Camry.
yes, I do too.
Anything else to say? I think being a lesbian is so fun and so great. And I think if I had to give advice to anybody about coming out, be safe about it, because it is very scary for some people. And although I was very blessed to be able to come out and have everybody love me, it is very scary for people. And I think another thing is you have to accept that it's not going to be easy for a lot of people if they don't like it and if they weren't expecting it. So just expect the worst and hope for the best, but then live your best life, because why not?
Yeah, you know what? I 100% agree with that. That, despite what others may say, they are not in your shoes. They do not have to walk your path.
Mhm.
And even though they may not accept it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't love yourself.
Exactly.
You can absolutely love yourself despite having folks um, who are close to you not
Mhm.
accept you. And I know that's really difficult. I mean, I'm an old guy though, Liv. See, I've been around for a few decades, and I know back in the late 80s when I came out the first time. Well, actually, I should go back. I came out the first time, according to my mother, I was born in 1965. And according to my mother, somewhere around my being 5 or 6 years old, that would have been in 1970 or 1971. I shared with her that I believed that I was something other than the girl that they kept telling me that I was.
Wow.
And she said that at that point, they didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
So fast forward, 45 years later, at the tender age of 50 in 2015, I came out as trans. And I shared that with my mom, and she says, "Oh, I know. Ever since you were this big, you told me that you were a boy."
Wow.
So it was like she remembered. And here's the other thing that you have to take note of in that. My mother had dementia. So she was
Wow.
slowly losing her memory and being able to connect to lots of things. Like there were times when I came in and she didn't even recognize me, right? Now, when I came out as trans, she was still kind of early on in that journey that we had to take her down, that path that we had to walk down with her dementia. And so I just was really shocked with the fact that I came out to her. She totally accepted it. She joked about it even. She was like, "Well, I'm gonna call you Charlie." And I had to laugh because I was like, "Well, I don't want to go by Charlie. I'll let you know when I figure out what my name's gonna be." But she only misgendered me a handful of times after that until the day she died. And unfortunately, COVID took her in 2020.
Oh, I'm so
She was
sorry.
living in a memory care unit. But for her to continue to lose her memory, but every time I came in, even if she didn't recognize that I was her child, she would flirt with me,
Oh.
and she was straight as she's like, "I think you should spend the night." And I'm like, "If I spend the night, I'm gonna sleep in this chair." She's like, "Well, why would you do that?" And I'm like, "Who do you think I am?" She pointed to a picture of my dad that we had on her dresser. She said, "Well, you're that guy." And I said, "Well, that's my dad. You're kinda close." And then she goes, "Oh, wait a minute. I don't have any of those." And I said, "You don't have any what? Kids?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "You have 4 kids. I'm one of them." She goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're sleeping in the chair."
Wow. That's so crazy.
It is pretty wild, but, it's interesting because I meet people today who will I'll even tell them, "My name's Eli, my pronouns are he, him." And they'll still call me Ellie and use female references with me. Even
After
after
you told
telling
them?
them. Yes.
I don't understand it.
I don't understand it either, but it happens. It happens all the time. So anyway, that's why I do what I do and do the advocacy work that I do. Let's see here. Okay. Well, Camry is saying that she cannot get a hold of my next person, and instead of holding you hostage here on my on my live stream, Liv, it is really honestly, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. You are definitely joyful and electric. Um,
Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing some of the truth bombs you shared about life with me today, and again about some of the changes that Morningside College can benefit from. I think it takes a lot of courage
Absolutely.
to
There's so
speak the
many.
truth and to share. Yeah. And so
And
I
that's
just appreciate
I
you
feel
for
like
that.
I feel like that's one thing that Morningside also has to do is tell the truth. Be open and honest about who they are, who they have in charge. They know what they're doing. They know who is not being truthful and who doesn't support everybody, and they continue to let those people be in charge. And that has to say something. They need to make a change. They need to do what's right. And if they're not going to do it, then they can't pretend they're doing it.
Yeah. There needs to be more transparency for sure, it sounds like.
100%, 125%.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate you very much. We're gonna shut this down because I am gonna hop back in my truck and try to make it up to Sioux City. So I hope I get to see you tonight at the presentation.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you.
All right, Liv, you're welcome. Thank you all for those of you who tuned in to Speaking of Happy today and join these conversations with these young, I don't want to call them young people. I mean, they're very brilliant, beautiful people who shared some really powerful things with us today. So thank you to those who tuned in and watched the show. I am Eli Rigatuso of Speaking of Happy, and we are checking on out. Bye.